The 2023 season is right around the corner. And as players and coaches prepare in OTAs around the country, who are some of the players that could have breakout seasons for the Indianapolis Colts in the fall? Well, let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast presented by Fan Nation on SI.com, part of the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Andrew Moore, and I'm joined here by my co host and fellow writer at Horseshoe Huddle, Drake Wally. Guys, for our YouTube audience, we are not live this evening. I have a prior commitment. The wife and I going to a concert, tickets that I bought her for Valentine's Day. So sorry we couldn't make it live, but hey, at least we're here on your screens talking some Colts football with you. But Drake, how you doing, man? We just talked a couple days ago about what the offense could look like with Anthony Richardson. Now we're kind of deviating a little bit from Anthony Richardson, talking about some other guys that can really have a big impact on such a crucial and I think exciting 2023 season ahead for the Colts.
Yeah, and it feels a little weird not to be like look at my hands, they're shaking. I'm not about to talk about Anthony Richardson, like what's going on. But no, it's exciting. A lot of people, even outside of Anthony Richardson, Josh Downs, I know everyone's super duper excited about the draft picks, but some of these guys that were rookies last year, some of the guys that are coming onto the team for the first time, they're going to get a real crack at their first big year with a guy like Steichen, and Gus Bradley feels probably more invigorated now with the rest of the team kind of new around him too. So there's going to be some guys we're going to talk about that I think are going to make a big impact, and they could make one as soon as week one.
And with the Colts being a younger team, I mean, really, they don't have any players that are over the age of 30, I think, or they might have one player that's over the age of 30. They're honestly a fairly young team. So they've got a lot of guys that still are trying to prove themselves in the NFL. And with Shane Steichen and this new coaching staff, this new culture that they're bringing in, I think it's going to have a really positive impact for a lot of guys. And we'll detail those guys here tonight. But before we do that, guys, we really appreciate all your support from the bottom of our hearts. The numbers have been fantastic, and we would just want to continue climbing. And with your help, we can do that. So please, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and give us a follow on all of the social media platforms, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts on FN on Twitter, subscribe to Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube, and hit that bell so you know when Drake and I are going live, whenever Destin and Shad are going live. They had a fun question or Q&A episode last night that you guys heard. So really, we really appreciate all of this. And if you can't listen to us live, shout out to our podcast listeners on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get us on your podcast platforms. We really do appreciate you guys as well. Rate, subscribe, and review. It really helps us with the charts, so that way we can reach more Colts fans just like you, to make a better community of Colts fans and people that just want to talk about Colts football. So once again, we are really appreciative of all the support, and we're just getting started. So come along for the ride. So Drake, without further ado, let's really dive into it. So we're going to talk about 5 breakout players, or 5 players who are poised for a breakout season for the Colts in the 2023 calendar year. And I think, as I was kind of alluding to before, they have a lot of candidates for this. We were trying to narrow down our list of 5. It was honestly kind of tough to pinpoint just 5 different guys that really could have a breakout. But in my opinion, I think we really came down to the 5 guys that have the best chance of breaking out in 2023. And I'd be surprised, honestly, if we didn't see a jump in play from all 5 of these guys.
Yeah, and it's hard to find, it was hard to narrow down 5 because of just the dumpster fire that was last year and the talent you knew that was on the team during that dumpster
Right.
fire. And you were just constantly saying to yourself, man, they're really not getting that fair chance to shine. So I'm right there with you. I think these 5 guys, especially with everything laid out the way it is, and as bright as the future currently looks, it could be pretty exciting to watch them, especially right here in 2023 with everything hitting the ground running.
Right, absolutely. And I think let's kick it off with the guy that I think most people are expecting to have a big jump this year is tight end Jelani Woods. I mean, after a stellar rookie campaign, he didn't really see the field too much, but when he did, man, he was hard to stop. And in an offense that was really a dumpster fire, as you said, but really it was hard to actually get a lot of playmakers involved just because of the quarterback carousel that was going on with the 2022 Colts. But Jelani Woods, I think, is absolutely primed to have a huge season in 2023 and could really take over as this Colts as the Colts tight end of the future starting this season.
Yeah, and something that's really interesting is his numbers. I mean, 25 catches, 312 yards, three touchdowns. You look at those and you're like, that's not really that impressive. But he actually led all tight ends. Okay, and we're talking about he also competed with Kylan Granson. He competed with Mo Alley Cox. By the way, 3 years, $18 million is Mo's contract. And this was a rookie who led all the tight ends in catches. The thing that stands out to me, though, is 16 of those 25 catches. So that's 64% of his catches were for first downs. Okay, so
Drake
that's
is coming out
incredible.
with the heavy hitting stats tonight.
It's not often I have to do this, but Jelani Woods, there's a reason that I went and bought that guy's jersey. I'm telling you, I think that he's going to be great. He's a constant mismatch with that 6'7" frame. He could be a huge red zone target for a guy that's getting used to the offense like Minshew, should he start, or a guy that's getting used to the league like Richardson. He's deceptively quick for his size, and I mean deceptively quick. And he can also make nearly any contested catch, that's within his vicinity being so large. So you put all those factors in, and Shane Steichen at the helm, and a guy like Anthony Richardson that's going to be depending on Woods and looking for Woods. Man, that could be a really good year for Jelani Woods to bounce back and right here in his sophomore season.
Right, and I think you just alluded to it. One of the biggest reasons for me that I think Jelani Woods can have a big year too is because of Shane Steichen. I mean, you look at how he incorporated tight ends over the past couple seasons in Philadelphia. You're talking about Dallas Goedert, who has ascended into one of the best tight ends in the league. I would say he's probably in the upper echelon with Travis Kelsey and George Kittle, Mark Andrews. But I would think when you're thinking of tight ends, he's probably in that second tier. And the way Shane Steichen has used tight ends, he's not afraid to put guys in line. He's not afraid to put him in the slot. Really, I think with Jelani Woods, he's such a weapon for his size, being 6'7", 261 pounds, or I'm sorry, 253 pounds, being able to run a 4.6 140. I mean, I used to say that when Mo Alley Cox was running with the football in the open field, he looked like an angry moose. If Mo Alley Cox was an angry moose, I don't even know what rangy animal to compare Jelani Woods to. Maybe a an angry hippopotamus, an angry we said an angry rhinoceros for Anthony Richardson on Monday, but Jelani Woods is just he's got so much untapped potential. And it does take tight ends a little bit of time for them to really get used to the NFL game. It's very rare you see a rookie tight end show up in the NFL and immediately be a Pro Bowler or an All Pro. It took Travis Kelsey a couple years, took Rob Gronkowski a couple years, George Kittle. These guys, it takes them a little bit to adjust to the NFL game. But I think with Jelani Woods, he's just so versatile as a tight end. Yes, I do think he needs to improve on his blocking to be placed in line more. And the better he is as a blocker, that just means he's going to be on the field more. So I think that should be an area of focus for him this offseason. And I think it will be with tight ends coach Tom Manning. But when you have a guy that is just such a mismatch out there on the field, and every time he caught the ball, like you were saying, it just seemed like it went for first downs or went for touchdowns or went for conversions. And when he did get the ball in the open field, he was a lot to bring down. It took 2 to 3 guys to bring down a player of that size. So when you have that weapon and you have a young rookie quarterback like Anthony Richardson there in the fold, he's going to be used as a really good security blanket, I think, for Anthony Richardson, and really someone that the Colts should be able to use at a high rate within their offense.
Well, and the thing is, like, I can't remember the last time. I don't even think I know if the Colts have ever had a tight end quite like this. I mean, even going back to Dallas Clark, more of your move slot tight end,
Hmm.
and you got Kobe Fleener, who's more of the lean pass catching type, and Dwayne Allen, who is kind of the same but maybe a little bit bigger. This is a behemoth of a human being. Okay, this guy is 6'7", like you said, 255, 260 pounds, a 4.6 40. I think fellow tight end Will Mallory just ran like a 4.55 40, and it was the fastest of all tight ends in the draft. That gives you an idea on how fast Jelani Woods is. Now, put that frame along with that speed. That is just hell to tackle in the open field if you're a defensive back. Good luck.
Right, right, and I again, I think we're going to see quite an improvement from Jelani Woods in multiple areas. I mean, there were some times last year where it looked like he was invisible. He wasn't able to reach the field. A lot of it because he wasn't there quite there yet with his blocking. There were some drops that Jelani Woods had that were a little bit concerning, but at the same time, it's he's a rookie. He's gonna make those mistakes. But I'm really expecting a big jump in year two. And I think a lot of that will come with just being able to play more snaps. If Jelani Woods is out there, I'd have to check and see how often or what percentage of the snaps Johnny Woods played last year. But I think if he can reach closer to 40 or 50% of the snaps at tight end, you're going to see a monster season out of number 80. So I think the Colts are in really good hands with Jelani Woods, and then we'll have to see about the can Mo Alley Cox have a rebound? How does Drew Ogletree come for technically his rookie season after tearing his ACL in training camp? Kylan Granson is still in that room, and you already mentioned Will Mallory. So a lot of talent, a lot of unknowns at the tight end room. But I think with Tom Manning there back at the helm as that tight ends coach, you're going to see a really good group in 2023. Moving along to our next guy who we think can have a breakout season, another player from the offensive side of the ball. And this guy, I mean, he sort of broke out last year, but I think we could be looking at a serious number two wide receiver in Alec Pierce in 2023.
Yeah, and the thing that's both awesome and kind of sad about Pierce is that he had three different quarterbacks throwing him the ball on an offense that didn't really have coaching consistency, and that same offense didn't really take a lot of deep shots, which is what he does best because he's still trying to round out that route running. But look, like Woods, he can win 50-50 balls. Okay, that
Mhm.
is huge for a rookie quarterback that also is working on his accuracy. You can't find anything better. That's a guy like Richardson's best friend. He could be he could kind of maybe even be leaned on like a wide receiver one. Not saying that he'll supplant Pittman Jr., but he could be leaned on that way with the skill set that he has matching with Richardson's strengths and Steichen's vision for the offense. Just glimpses last year there were consistent performances, but not every week. I think you're going to see that more consistently this time. You're going to see week after week more like four catches maybe for Pierce rather than one catch, and then you've got a game of six catches and then a game of one catch. You saw a lot of that. He does need to increase his route running proficiency, but I think that if he can do that with his size, he could be a really big problem. And again, he can also, like Woods, be a huge red zone target for fades, for short throws, for mismatches. Sky up and get that ball.
The Colts just have so many pass catching options that are just so big. And I never really understood why Frank Reich didn't take advantage of that when in his time with the Colts. I mean, you have all these big wide receivers with 6'4" Michael Pittman, 6'3" Alec Pierce, 6'5" Mo Alley Cox, 6'7" Jelani Woods. The Colts just never really took advantage of their big power forward type players in the red zone when you would expect those guys to excel the most. So I'm hoping Shane Steichen will really try to take advantage of that. But speaking of Shane Steichen, I mean, what has he said since he's became the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts? We're gonna pass to score points and we're going to run to win. So when you're thinking of Shane Steichen, and we've already talked about this before, you can expect more deep shots down the field, more opportunities for explosive plays, and I think that's exactly where Alec Pierce is going to excel. When you talk about Anthony Richardson, one of the things that he is best at as a young football player is throwing that deep ball. So who's arguably the best wide receiver for the Colts when it comes to tracking the ball deep and winning those jump ball situations, it's Alec Pierce. So when you have a guy like that on the outside, being able to throw it up to him and really just having confidence that Alec Pierce is going to come down with that ball, relying on what he did in college at Cincinnati. I mean, he was a former volleyball player, and his brother is a basketball player at Princeton. I mean, he's got the hops for a white boy. But Alec Pierce, I mean, that's where he really excels at, and I think that's where Shane Steichen is going to take advantage of. I mean, another thing that I think is really crucial about Alec Pierce as well. Last year, Alec Pierce was viewed more as a wide receiver 3. When the Colts only had 2 wide receivers out there, it was most of the time Pittman and Paris Campbell, and Alec Pierce would come in during those 3 wide receiver sets. That's not going to be the case anymore. Alec Pierce is the number 2 wide receiver this year behind Michael Pittman. So on those 2 wide receiver sets, Alec Pierce is going to be the one out there getting more playing time, more snaps, and more opportunities with Shane Steichen at the helm.
Well, and to kind of reflect the same thing with Jelani Woods. So Pierce had 41 catches, 593 yards, 2 touchdowns, which that's sad because you think
Mhm.
that he would have more just, watching all the deep passes he caught. Here's the thing though, as opposed to 16 of 25 catches being first downs, how about 28 out of 41 catches being first downs? That is ridiculous. Why wasn't he throwing the ball more down the field? Clearly he could. He was a deep threat even in his rookie season. So man, I really am excited, super duper stoked just to see what Steichen's got in store for Alec Pierce, just to see what Richardson or if Minshew starts. I can even envision Minshew taking some deep shots with Alec Pierce. He is the quintessential go up and get it guy. If he can just shore up his route running, it's over for certain defensive players that can't deal with his size.
Right, and you talk about the why the ball wasn't thrown more to Alec Pierce. It's because there were guys like Matt Ryan, Nick Foles trying to throw him the football, Sam Ellinger, guys that obviously could not do that last year. But let's move along to our final offensive player that is poised for a breakout. The lone player on the offensive line that we think could break out, and that is left tackle Bernard Raimann, who when you look at him, I mean, you think, man, do the Colts really have left tackle figured out? I might be a little bit more optimistic than most on Bernard Raimann, just because watching how he progressed throughout the season there at left tackle, he took his lumps. There were good times, there were bad times, but as we saw him go throughout the season, especially late in the year, he was pretty solid to end 2022. What do you think, Drake?
Man, you put all of the factors in with how he came out of college, third round pick, former tight end. He had limited snaps as a left tackle. And you throw him in to the ridiculous game that was against the Broncos, where it was 7 field goals between
Mhm.
2 teams. He looked like he had no idea what was going on. Okay. But I will give Frank Reich credit. He kept Bernard Raimann in that game to get through those mistakes. And it just seemed like week after week, like you said, he just continued to get better. He showed consistency as the year was winding down on a terrible football team. Arguably became potentially, I think he was either the best run blocker by PFF or the best pass blocker. I can't remember, but he was one of the best blockers on the team. If he can keep that up, he could be one of the top linemen. His athleticism will keep him up with Richardson in the backfield, I do think. I also think he might be used in some exotic blocking schemes just because of how his footwork is and how athletic the guy is. And with the speed of that footwork, I think that he could be a safety blanket for Richardson's blind side and a guy that maybe Richardson, if he can get that consistency, he won't need to worry about that left side as much.
Yeah, and so last year Bernard Raimann graded out as the 25th overall offensive tackle in the NFL according to Pro Football Focus. So that was 25th out of 81 tackles, which really isn't too bad when you consider everything. As a pass blocker, he was the 38th best tackle, and as a run blocker, the 18th best run blocking offensive tackle in the NFL. And here's the thing too, when looking at the overall season grades, I think it was after week 10, Bernard Raimann was around the 30, 34th, 35th, somewhere around there, overall tackle. But then once you reach that second half of the season, Bernard Raimann was close to a top 10 graded offensive tackle in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. Now, Pro Football Focus isn't the end all be all as far as grades and how everything is played. But you know what is the film? You can't hide from the film. And when you turn on the film and watch Bernard Raimann towards the end of the year, you see a player that things are starting to click. I mean, yes, he still does have some issues with his play strength, but as he's told us this offseason, he's been in the weight room. He's put on a considerable amount of weight already this offseason, and he's planning to do that more. And it's not fat, guys. This is pure muscle that he is putting on through this offseason to up his play strength, be able to hold up against those stronger defensive linemen. So when you put that all together, another year in this offense, another year next to Quentin Nelson, the biggest thing for Bernard Raimann is just to get more reps. So hopefully he can stay healthy. And I think if he does and gets more reps, we're really going to see him come into his own. And you're going to see a more consistent Bernard Raimann in 2023 and someone that I think can really hold up against some of the better edge rushers that the NFL has to offer.
Yeah, and what I'm really thinking of is that you got to feel, if you're a Colts fan, you got to feel happy to see that, because ever since Anthony Costanzo left the team, you've just really not had any consistency at such an important position. There's only one left-handed passer in the NFL, and that's Tua Tagovailoa. Okay, so he's the only guy who his blind side's the right tackle. All right, that's it. So you got to have it short up on that left side. It looked really good at the end of last year. I'm telling you, if Bernard Raimann can continue that kind of development, it'll be really cool to see him mesh with a new coach like Steichen that understands just how important it is to get an offensive line humming for the running game.
Right. And if the Colts can solve their left tackle problem with the third round pick out of Central Michigan, just give them a couple years to develop, I think everybody is going to be on board with that, because that is, like you said, it's been a massive hole since Anthony Costanzo retired in 2020. If the Colts can have their quarterback hole fixed with Anthony Richardson, you have that left tackle hole fixed with Bernard Raimann, you're going to go places very, very quickly, because when those two premium positions have premium players there, and I'm not saying Bernard Raimann needs to be an all pro. I mean, hell, Anthony Costanzo, rather, never made a Pro Bowl in his entire career. But when you look back on it, you think, man, Anthony Costanzo was a rock solid left tackle for the Indianapolis Colts. And if the Colts could get another Anthony Costanzo type player out of Bernard Raimann, sign me up. I would be all for that. So let's go to the defensive side of the ball here. And here's a guy that I think really didn't get the opportunities with his last team, because the people that he were behind were all pros and Pro Bowlers. And that's Samson Ebukam, the defensive end that the Colts signed from the San Francisco 49ers in free agency this season. Drake, to me, as soon as this signing was made, and as I dove into Ebukam's game, this really reminded me of when the Colts signed Danico Autry a few years ago, a player that has been kind of buried on the depth chart, but when he's had opportunities to play, he's made the most of it, and all he needs is a starting opportunity. And I think Ebukam is going to get that with the Colts and really shock a lot of people.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things about him is like his stats aren't going to blow off the page at you, but you got to keep in mind this guy was a rotational piece. All right. He
Right.
wasn't given the snaps he was supposed to have. 2019, 4.5 sacks, 2020, 4.5 sacks, 21, 4.5 sacks, last year, 5 sacks. With his limited snaps, this guy makes the most of his opportunities. He is also far better in run defense than Yannick Ngakoue. That's not a personal dig on Yannick. That's just where a lot of teams would run the ball, is over to Yannick's side, because he would over pursue. This is not the same guy. He's going to plant right there with the tackle, with the offensive lineman, and he's going to try to move the guy wherever that running back's going to choose. He's going to sit right there and wait for that running back. I think if he's given more snaps, I'm going to make a bold prediction. I think he's an 8 to 10 sack kind of guy. I think his motor will wear down people. I think that he doesn't stop moving. He doesn't stop like grinding and scratching to get to the quarterback. And lastly, I think if Dio Dangbo, okay, who's another guy that you could have easily put on this list, And Kwity Paye, if they can get their motors running, you put in Samson Ebukam, boy, that's a really difficult defensive end rotation to deal with. And he could actually come out of it looking better than he ever has in his entire career.
Right, and that's the thing too, is I think Samson Ebukam really fits the mold of what Gus Bradley wants in a Leo as well. In that smaller defensive end, he's only 6'3", 245 pounds, so he isn't a big dude by defensive end standards, but neither was Unique Ngakwe, and Unique Ngakwe still got 9.5 sacks last year, but the quality of the sack is what's going to be different. You're not just going to have Unique Ngakwe or someone in there that's cleaning up getting the messy sacks where the quarterback's trying to scramble around, the play is dead, and he just kind of gets the sack that way. No, Samson Ebukam was one of the guys that led the league in pressure opportunities last year, and so it's just a different quality of pass rush. With Unique Ngakwe, you're getting more of the cleanup sacks. That's why his numbers were so high. Samson Ebukam, it's not only is he going to, I think, rack up good sack numbers. I think his ceiling could be a 10 sack guy, double digit sack. I would say my realistic prediction this year would probably be around that 8.5 mark. But I think I would accept that from Ebukam. But you're also going to get the constant pressure because, as you said, and this is something that he has been praised about from his college days, from all of his coaches there with the 49ers. Ebukam or Ebukam, excuse me, it's Ebukam's motor just does not stop. He plays 110% every play that he is out there, no matter if it's a run play, a pass play. He doesn't take those plays off. He is constantly in attack mode. And when you pair that with somebody or pair a guy like Ebukam next to DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Kwity Paye, if he can get a fully healthy year. Because I think Kwity Paye, he only played 12 games last year, but he had 6 sacks. So a fully healthy season for Kwity Paye, you're looking at another guy that's got 8.5 sacks his second year. And if you can get 9, 10, 11 sacks each out of your bookends, out of Ebukam and Kwity Paye, man, the Colts would take that in a heartbeat, especially when you can count on another 8 sacks from DeForest Buckner up in the middle. But I think that the biggest thing out of all of this is just going to be that Ebukam, even if he doesn't get a sack, he's still going to create pressure and force quarterbacks to throw the ball when they're not ready, which doesn't really show up in the stats sheet or the box score as people like to say. But those are the types of plays that defensive linemen can really affect the game and make it so an offense can't get things going.
And there's only five. Well, I mean, there's more blockers at times than five offensive linemen. But look, if you have one guy that is just in the first quarter and then the fourth quarter, he has just continued to keep that motor running. He is going to wear down whoever has to continuously block him. Well, guess what? Then you're opening up lanes. Then you're opening up blitz opportunities. You're opening up opportunities for your opposite side defensive end, your interior defensive lineman. I mean, a guy like him can absolutely produce far more than his numbers will show, which I think he will.
Right. And if you told me that at the end of the 2023 season that Samson Ebukam comes in and has 9.5 sacks and racks up 30 to 40 pressures, that would not surprise me in the slightest. I think was a very underrated signing for the Indianapolis Colts, and I think it's going to turn out to be a very productive signing for the Colts when everything's said and done. But the last player we're going to talk about, again, from the other side of the ball, this was a guy that honestly I thought 2022 would be his breakout year. I thought he was going to get the opportunity. It turns out when he was on the field, he did show it. I mean, when you look at what he was able to do coverage wise, I think Pro Football Focus had him ranked as a top 10 cornerback last year. But this is the year where Isaiah Rodgers Sr. finally gets a full-time starting role on this defense. And man, I think he is just going to explode on the scene. Drake, what do you think about Isaiah Rodgers Sr. in 2023?
I think he was robbed last year because in 2021, this is a guy who started one measly game. Okay. He played in all 17, started one game, 3 interceptions, 7 passes defensed, 49 tackles, a tackle for loss. I mean, this is a guy who had a fumble recovery. And he still did all this while playing special teams. Okay. This is a guy who
Hmm.
has got all of the freaking skills to play. It's just for some reason last year, again, I don't mean to keep going back to this, but it's truly hard to gauge anything outside of maybe Michael Pittman's volume catching numbers. Okay. Everything else was just so hard to really judge now as opposed to then. And, is a guy going to improve or not? When he only started 9 out of 15 games, he didn't get the snaps he was supposed to get. I really think that now he is going to be that bona fide, DB2, CB2. He's definitely going to be the number one guy on the outside. He's going to be taking on some
Hmm.
of the tougher receivers. I think he's ready. I really do. This isn't just a fanboy side. I think that he's 5'10". He's a little bit undersized, but he packs a punch. He's physical. I think that he's earned his stripes. That's my biggest thing. He's earned it. He's earned the right to start on the defense as the cornerback too, with all of his logs at special teams and all the stuff he dealt with last year and the critics, as you know who we're talking about. I think that Isaiah Rodgers is primed and ready. And if Juju Brents, can hit the ground running, Kenny Moore can get back to his playing ways, maybe you'll see 5, maybe you'll see 6 interceptions. Who knows? However they use Isaiah Rodgers, he's going to be ready, and I think he's going to produce.
Isaiah Rodgers was the 5th ranked cornerback by Pro Football Focus in 2023. The only players that were ahead of him were Sauce Gardner of the New York Jets, Patrick Surtain, the second from the Denver Broncos, Jalen Ramsey of the Los Angeles Rams. Now he's with the Miami Dolphins, and Duke Shelley, who is with the Las Vegas Raiders. So that's rare company. 3 out of those 4 names are all Pro Bowlers in Sauce Gardner, Patrick Surtain, and Jalen Ramsey. And the way I envision Isaiah Rodgers Sr. being used this year is more of that weak side cornerback in Gus Bradley's scheme. And what I mean by that is you're going to see Isaiah Rodgers take on a lot of more man assignments because he has 4.3 speed. He is the aggressor when it comes to that. He is a ball hawk. He can, while he may be 5'10", that hasn't really been a big factor or stopped him from producing when he has had the chance on the field. But the weak side defender, the weak side cornerback in Gus Bradley's scheme does take on more of the man match opportunities. And that's kind of where Isaiah Rodgers fits. He's better in man coverage and in zone. He's able to make plays on the ball that way, really utilize his speed to stick with those wide receivers. And then on your strong side, let's talk about your bigger, more physical corners who can kind of sit back in zone, help and run support. That's going to be your Juju Brents. So that when we talk about that this upcoming season and the little differences that each one of them is going to play, that's what we're talking about. But it also falls in line with their strengths. Isaiah Rodgers Sr., a speed guy, more of a ball hawk, better in man coverage. So he's going to be that weak side. Juju Brents, big, physical, not as fast, but can really excel in zone, use those instincts and help in run support, kind of lay the boom a little bit on those tackles. You're going to see him more as the strong side cornerback. But either way, I'm really excited for Isaiah Rodgers Sr. I know that Gus Bradley had his guy last year in Brandon Faison and really wanted Brandon Faison to play. But as we all saw, Brandon Faison had a terrible 2022 season, did not deserve to have the playing time that he had last year. Thankfully, he is no longer with the Indianapolis Colts. And I think really the starting cornerback spot that Isaiah Rodgers Sr. has, it's really his to lose. And we also forget Isaiah Rodgers Sr. is in a contract year. This is his last season with the Colts. It's his time to go out there and prove that he can be a starting cornerback for this team, not only this year, but for years to come. Because the Colts did draft Juju Brents, Darius Rush, Jalen Jones. They drafted all of these young cornerbacks that if Isaiah Rodgers Sr. doesn't step up, those young guys are going to be hungry and ready to take his spot. So, but I have all the confidence in the world in Isaiah Rodgers Sr. to get it done. And I'm really excited to see what he can do getting the opportunity as the full-time starter as an outside cornerback. And I really have confidence that I think he's going to flourish in that spot.
And I think he's also got an opportunity to, like you said, with his contract year, which is hard to believe he's already been with the Colts for 3 seasons. But this is an opportunity for him to prove a lot of people wrong. He's going to walk in there with a chip on his shoulder. He's going to get the playing time he wanted, and he's like I said, he's earned his stripes. So I really do think that you're going to see a maybe he might even have the best case out of all of these guys, given the situation, to have a breakout year because he is going to be out there starting a lot. He's going to be seeing a lot of snaps. He's going to be trusted with a lot of coverage responsibility. We're just going to have to see. But if there was a year for him to do it, the time is now.
Came into the same draft class as Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. So if those guys can be cornerstones for your team for years to come, it's a hell of a haul for a draft class. But guys, keep these names in mind: Jelani Woods, Alec Pierce, Bernard Raimann, Samson Ebukam, and Isaiah Rodgers Sr. are 5 breakout players for the 2023 season for the Indianapolis Colts. And I think there's a good chance that all 5 of them really hit and show massive improvement this upcoming season. So make sure you keep an eye on those guys on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium this fall. But let's put a cap on that topic and move to the latest Colts news and rumors. We've got a couple of things that have happened this week, and number one involves a guy that is not retired. He made sure he made that perfectly clear in his tweet announcing this. But former Colts quarterback Matt Ryan is not signing with the team right now, but he's headed to this studio life. He's going to be an analyst for CBS Sports alongside James Brown, Bill Cowher, all the other guys there in the studio, talking about the football games on the NFL slate for CBS every Sunday. Drake, what do you think of this move? I honestly think Matt Ryan will crush it as an analyst, but it was kind of funny that in his tweet announcing this, he did say he was not retiring.
Well, hey, you know what? As opposed to the latter part of his tweet, you do you, Matt Ryan. Okay, I will say that despite last year, man, you're talking about a guy who has a top 10 all time mind for this kind of game. Okay,
Mhm.
this is a guy who is top 10 in nearly every freaking statistical category you can have for a quarterback. So he's seen some things, he's done some things, he's achieved everything but win a dang Super Bowl. So I personally think he not only looks like he would be in this role, he talks like he would be in this role. He has the mindset to be in this role, and he's just smooth in his delivery. I can't wait to see the way he breaks down the game. I'm really excited, actually.
Matt Ryan is one of the most professional people you will ever meet in your entire life. Even in the one season with the Colts, and even in the only couple opportunities I was there getting to speak with Matt Ryan, I mean, you felt that immediately. So I think as an analyst, he is going to be exceptional at that role. I'm excited to see him on Sundays in that CBS studio talking football with the guys. But why it was so important that he said he wasn't retired and he's still looking for opportunities to get back on the field is because with the Colts releasing him, they still owe him $12 million for this year. And if Matt Ryan just retires or doesn't try to pursue other opportunities within the NFL, while it's very unlikely that Jim Irsay and the Colts would do this, they would still have the option to try to recoup that $12 million that Matt Ryan is owed. Now, again, I do not think that Jim Irsay and the Colts would do this because of how well Matt Ryan treated them in their time there. While the results didn't reflect it on the field, Matt Ryan was the ultimate professional through everything, was the ultimate team player. I don't think the Colts would do that, but at the same time, that is why Matt Ryan is saying that he's not yet retired, because he has got 12 million reasons to say that. But yeah, good for Matty Ice. I'm going to be excited to see him in the studio on Sundays. And then the final little bit of news we have that happened this week: the 8th Now the Colts have 8 out of 12 draft picks signed to their rookie deals as wide receiver Josh Downs agreed to his 4-year rookie deal this week. All of these guys eventually will be signed. There's no real I would say there's no real worry that anyone won't sign, but it is good to finally have that done. And like I said, now 2/3 of the 2023 draft class for the Colts signed to their rookie deals and are ready to just focus on football. And I tell you what, Drake, Josh Downs might be the player that I am most excited to watch outside of Anthony Richardson, of course, but the player I'm most excited to see in 2023.
Yeah, 4 years, just to kind of round up, $5.6 million with a signing bonus of $1.07 million. So for your first contract in the league, that's not too bad. That's a pretty big chunk of change. Look, Josh Downs is going to be such an important part of what Shane Steichen wants to do. And he fell in the draft. It was Reggie Wayne's favorite pick. Okay. There's a lot of things that not only his skill set is lining up with, but the coaches wanted this guy the whole time. Oh, and a will be surefire Hall of Fame receiver who played with arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time thought you were the best freaking receiver in the draft. Now you're with this guy learning from him. So if you have any doubts about Josh Downs, go again. I'm going to say this until I can't say it anymore, until the regular season. Go watch with the next pick. You will see what looks like the birth of Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars. I'm telling you, the NFL is going to be dealing with Darth Vader in the slot. This dude was not happy that he fell to the third round, but he was just as mad as he was that he fell. He was equally as excited to be a part of the Colts, and it is one of the most just emotional things I've ever seen, and it'll make you smile if you're a Colts fan to have that guy on your side.
I love that analogy. That was spot on. And hey, for Josh Downs, when he woke up the morning after signing that contract, taking a look at his bank account and seeing that Chris Mill signing bonus wired directly into his account, I'm sure it was a pretty good morning for Josh Downs. But yeah, absolutely, I'm excited to see what he can do on the field. I think he is going to be crucial to the Shane Steichen offense as that quick win wide receiver across the middle. And like we've talked about before, the dude catches everything. He is so determined. He's already working to create a connection with Anthony Richardson, and this duo could cause a lot of problems for NFL defenses for years to come. But that's our show for this evening, guys. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, no, it wasn't live. Sorry about that, but we will be live again next time. And if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and follow us on all the things. Go ahead and like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. Follow Horseshoe Huddle on Twitter at Colts on FN. Subscribe to Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube and hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live, Destin and Shad are going live. When there's any other news coming out of the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube. In fact, just yesterday, or Wednesday night, I should say, our own Zach Hicks released a film interview with Zaire Franklin of the Indianapolis Colts. Go ahead and check that out. That one's a lot of fun. Zaire is always great talking to us, so really appreciate him for coming on. And for those that can't watch us on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts. We really appreciate that as well. Drake, I know you've been cooking in the lab, writing up a bunch of pieces. What can the people take a look at on horseshoehuddle.com that you've fantastically written up?
Oh man, thank you so much. Just to kind of keep it quick, I wrote the Josh Downs newser about his contract and just how now this man can focus. I'm telling you, this guy's going to explode in the NFL. Now I can focus on football. And one that I'm going to be releasing is 5 key matchups for Anthony Richardson to shine in the 2023 season.
Awesome. That'll be fun. That'll be a fun read. Definitely check that out. I myself have a couple pieces up on the site. I did a piece on Colts 7th round offensive tackle Jake Witt. He has a fantastic story, which I will dive into deeper later in the summer on my Rookie Files series, but just kind of giving an overview of Jake Witt's story, how he went from a transfer from playing basketball to taking a year off of sports to becoming an NFL player. So go check that out. And also Dio Odangbo has put on 11 pounds of muscle The dude is 6'6" and has gone from 274 to 285. That is a big man, not to mention his 86.5-inch wingspan.
Mother of
And
God.
and in year 3, Dio Dangbo is ready to take that next step. So that was a fun one. Go ahead and check out his comments from this week. You can follow Drake at DWalster Drake on Twitter. You can follow myself at Andrew Moore NFL. And we will be back Monday night to talk more Colts football with you guys. And we will be back live. So until then, everybody, have a safe and fun weekend. And we'll talk more Colts on Monday.